How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to another League Starters video. This is going to be for Echoes of the Atlas / Ritual League. I'm not really too sure what to title it as when it's a big expansion like that. It's like, do I use Echoes of the Atlas? Do I use Ritual League? What would work better? Honestly, I couldn't fucking tell you. But it is going to be for that league, and this is going to be a community feature. These are not my builds. These are builds from my Discord, from one of my moderators. His name is Keith Kahn. You can find him in my Discord if you want to ask him any questions about any of these builds. He doesn't do YouTube stuff or anything like this, but I asked in my Discord if anyone wanted their League Starters featured for a League Starter video to showcase it to other people or give people ideas or anything like that, or if they just wanted to get other input from other players on their sorts of stuff. And he sent me 3 of his builds that he's played in the past little bit that he recommended for League Starters. These are going to be trade League Starters because he does have some spicy stuff in here. And I will warn you ahead of time that he is, how do we put it in regards to this? The last time I was really big in the PoE scene, I'll call it a PoE hipster, basically, is the way to put it. Is he plays really, really weird stuff, but he's able to clear higher content than I am on hipster stuff than I am on regular stuff sometimes. So he's very, very good at what he does. So I'm going to run through some of his builds and show you the concepts as well as how most of them work. I have looked through all 3 of them, and I have figured out and pieced together what parts make it work and whatnot. There may be some things I miss, because I can't get everything because I am working on a very tight schedule during these like 5 days or so. But still, these also do come with gameplay for every single one of them, so I will be able to show you that as well. So, to start off, we have a Splitting Steel Assassin. This is going to be utilizing a one-hander and shield, if I remember correctly, to get a lot of Impale, as well as some Bullied Explosions from Hemophilia. This is going to be using Splitting Steel to get a shit ton of AoE damage and Impale modifiers and all that sort of stuff. I haven't actually used Splitting Steel or anything like this myself, but it did look interesting when it came out with all the Impale modifiers and that sort of stuff. So that's what we're going to be looking to scale. So we're going to be going for a Paradoxia for attacks with this weapon to deal double damage. I don't know if that like applies to like the bleeds and the Impales and that sort of stuff. I'm not really sure. And I also don't really know how the Impale calculations work. I had someone try to explain it to me at some point, and it was pretty much rocket science, and I couldn't care personally. But I am using the Path of Building fork, and hopefully it calculates it correctly, but when I did it the last time, it didn't, and the actual number in-game was miles higher. So whether that's the case for this, I'm not entirely sure, but this number could be immensely higher, depending on how this calculation works out in the PoB fork. So let me run you a little bit of gameplay here, and I shall show you how the build works. I believe this is a tier 13 map, something like that. So he's using Splitting Steel here, and as you can see, he's basically shitting on everything, because the way it works is with the Hemophilia explosions, everything he's hitting is just detonating into an explosion instantly, which then does AoE damage to every other enemy around it. And I believe he's using Splitting Steel, or he's using, was it Lancing? Whatever the other one was, that does a bit of an AoE and then shoots projectiles out. They're hard to see, because it's just the nature of Path of Exile. Everything's hard to see if you've ever had an on-death effect kill you. You'll see the pack is just literally exploding from all the projectiles, and then enemies are exploding off the Hemophilia, because he has a small amount of bleed in there, and yeah, that's pretty much how the build works. It's one of those one-button builds, although most PoE builds are one-button builds, realistically, where you just click shit and it dies. It's one of the things I don't really like about PoE very much, but that's just a personal complaint. Is that, you know, every build boils down to click one time, and that's if you can't kill everything with one button, your build sucks. But I'll let the breach run through, and then we shall look at the character. That's one of the big issues that I find from PoE to other like action RPGs, and it's always weird because you're used to playing things like Diablo or Grim Dawn or Torchlight or something where you got multiple pieces to interact to make a build to do damage that work together. Like Diablo, you're pressing all 6 of your buttons, right? And in PoE, if you got a character that requires more than 2 or 3 button presses, most people deem it as bad. It's definitely a weird concept. But, yeah. So that is the gameplay for the Splitting Steel Assassin. So let me showcase to you the skill tree that we are running with here. I'm going to try and keep this relatively quick. I want to do about 10-ish minutes / under 10 minutes per build. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time, because I still have to work on my League starter and figure out what the hell I'm going to do for that. That's my next project today, and I got no clue. I really don't. Alright, so in regards to the skill tree, we are going to go Assassin, and we are going Shadow for this character, because we want crit stuff. Of course, we're using Bleed and Impale, so we're going to be scaling mostly physical damage and Impale wherever we can. So we grab the physical damage nodes, we grab as much crit as possible during the early Shadow stuff. Damage, projectile speed, crit here, life here, crit here, and also most of the crit nodes have accuracy attached to them, so as a result it should cap out your accuracy just going for a crit character generally. Life, projectile damage, we have 2 fragilities in here, and then we run an On's shield, or well, he runs an On's shield for permanent onslaught. You could also have, like, Onslaught boots if you're spicy, or just press a flask, or, you know, the normal ways of doing things. Mana gained on kill, this is the one node that fixes all, I'm going to assume. It gives you mana on kill, and attack damage leached as mana. All you need is one node like this, and it'll solve any mana problems in regards to most builds. Crit, another fragility. Actually, this one gives you increased damage and Impale effect. And Call of Steel, I couldn't figure out what Call of Steel was, but the damage and Impale effect is very nice for the build. Then we get evasion rating. This is a travel node. Life here, and elemental resist. Life, a little bit of physical damage. Then fragility number 2. Life, damage, accuracy rating here. Life, damage. This is banner stuff and aura stuff. Bleed, this is where you get a little bit of bleed chance so that we can explode with hemos. And then we get Crimson Dance for more bleed stuff. And we get Impale node down here, and I believe crit multi with the swords, as well as Impale, or ailment stuff down there as well. Then we come over to the Ascendancy, and we are running with Assassin here for crit stuff, because we are looking at a very good crit chance. And we're going to have constant elusive, because we get elusive on crit, which is going to be very nice for dodging and movement speed. And then we get power charges from Unstable Infusion, as well as crit multi per power charge, movement speed at max charges, and extra crit. And then when you get opportunistic, your damage from crits can't be reflected. So if you're doing maps, make sure you have this, and then you can do whatever maps you want. Otherwise, reflect maps are going to clap you. It's always fun to have a character go into a map and then you use your main ability and you just insta-die. I had that happen doing an unID'd map on my Earthquake character. I just walked in, slammed, and just killed myself. And I was like, oh, good thing I'm not playing hardcore. But, yeah, so that's going to give you damage if you're up against just one enemy as well. So it's useful for bosses as well. But that makes it so you can do more maps. That's one thing that people don't really think about in regards to certain talents or build pieces or what have you, is like the amount of maps you can do. Like Temp Chains maps are an absolute pain in the ass, but if you get the Juggernaut Unstoppable node, all of a sudden it's not an issue anymore. Like you can run at normal speed doing Temp Chains and it's not a problem. This case, you can do Reflect, it's not a problem. So it opens up more maps in the pool that you can do. So looking at skills, we got Splitting or Shattering Steel. I believe you can use either of these. I'm not sure which one he's using in the gameplay. I think it's Splitting. I should have probably asked him that. But each of these probably have their own use. I think one's for bossing, one's for AoE. And we're running Brutality, Impale, Maim, Vicious Projectiles for the damage over time stuff and the physical over time, because Impale, I believe, counts as physical over time, so all of those sorts of bonuses will be quite nice. A chance to bleed is going to give us the extra bit of bleed chance, so we can get the Hemo's Explosion, because a Hemo Explosion is worth 5% of the mob's HP itself, and if that chains in a big AoE, it creates a very nice explosion. That's why the what's the old Slayer or Gladiator thing used to just have a pop on it, but you would still stack Hemophilias as well. I think that actually counted as 2 separate explosions for even more damage, but still. So yeah, that's the main 6-link setup, and then we run an Ancestral Protector because it's going to give you more attack speed when the totem's down. So this is for bosses. Just drop this fella. Blood Rage will give you frenzy charges. Flesh and Stone will give you bonus damage to anything around you, and then like constant maim. Or you can put it in Sand if you want survivability, and constantly blind everything near you. Cast when Immortal Call is survivability. Shield Charge, Hex Touch, Vuln, Fortify. This is your constant Fortify, and applies vulnerability. You could take out the Hex Touch if you want, and like take out these two, and just get vulnerability hemos, but you need to be rich to do that. But you know, if you're playing in Trade League and you're a millionaire, go for it by all means. And then we've got Aura's Precision for accuracy and crit, Pride for AoE, just flat damage, and anything that stands near you takes bonus damage, which is very good for bossing. Haste, we just tap Fall Haste, and Dread Banner is running constantly for the Impale stuff, and I believe you can slam it on bosses as well to get bonus DPS there. Enduring Cry with Second Wind, so you can have 2 Enduring Cries whenever you need them for regen, and, well, you don't get Endurance charges, but you do still get the large amount of regen, because we got rid of the Endurance charge with Fragility. And then cast on Stone Golem for life, and there's Blood Rage on the weapon, which has to trigger Blood Rage when you kill an enemy, or you can just tap it, whichever way you want to go, because apparently you can craft on this as well. I've never used this weapon myself, but it has increased physical damage and attack speed, and then Blood Rage attacks this weapon, deal double damage, covered that earlier. And the shield gives you Onslaught. The rest of the gear, this has a Helm enchant for splitting. The rest of the gear is just problem-solving pieces, like life, res, armor, that sort of stuff. Hemos is the only other big thing in regards to uniques. So, arguably, kinda SSF friendly. Like, aside from the Hemos, right? You can probably cut a lot of the bleed stuff if you don't run the Hemophilia, and you'd generally be okay, I think, to just take this sort of style and go for, like, full Impale. Could work out. Could work out. But yeah, that is his Splitting Steel Assassin. So we are going to drop out of that, and I shall show you his Cobra Commander next. I always like it when people come up with, like, you know, names for builds. I used to do it myself until I named the build the Titanic, because it was an Ice Crash character, and got a little bit of flack for that one, but I'm still proud of that name myself. So since then I haven't really done that sort of thing, but, you know, it always made me happy when I did that. Come up with the stupidest shit, but it gets taxing sometimes trying to come up with something that sounds cool, but then it actually hurts the search engine in theory when you're looking at YouTube stuff, so it's kind of weird. This is a Dominating Blow poison character that he wanted to make a character that was like a minion build, but it didn't play like a normal minion build where you just autopiloted and did nothing. Because what I found with minion characters was like you summon your bunch of minions and then you just mentally AFK, right? You're running a straight line, the minions do the work, and you're doing nothing other than other than like convoking them every now and then or resummoning them if you're playing skeletons or whatever have you. So he wanted a build that was sort of like kind of how I think Reaver is going to play in Path of Exile 2, where like you're leading the charge kind of with a bunch of minions behind you. I'm looking forward to playing the new Ascendancy, so it should be fun. But I think that's kind of how this is supposed to play, is that sort of Reaver play style of leading the charge with a bunch of minions that are buffed to shit. He uses a couple Spectres in here as well. I don't remember what they were exactly called. They're for frenzy charges, I believe. Let me scroll up in my Discord here. It's somewhere in here. Carnage Chieftain for frenzy, Host Chieftain for power charges, and Drox Monster for attack speed. And he's got an Animate Guardian in here as well, using, I think, Dying Breath and something else. Victorio's Flight, apparently. Those aren't going to be in the Path of Building, but those are just... If you want to use the Animate Guardian, it's optional. Otherwise, this is pretty much the setup. So, let me show you the paste bin for this fella. Let me pop this in. Import. Alright. So, this is going to be our character. Now, I guess you could play this Necro if you wanted to. You're right beside the starting zone. But he wanted to make a character that was actually doing shit at the same time. But if you want to make an autopilot character... Yeah, I guess. There might be more value in going Necro, just for more minion bonuses, but that's the hipster shining through in playing this as Assassin. But, yeah. So, essentially, the way this build works is that he has poison stuff on his Dominating Blow, which makes it so his minions actually poison and do chaos damage. Now, the extra stuff from the Ascendancy that he's taken apparently don't apply to the minions, so kinda sucks in that regard, which is why I'd recommend you could go Necro if you want an even more optimized build, but you'd have to do some re-engineering, obviously. But yeah, so he's using poison here to get to make his Dawn blows poison, to get poison explosions himself, and poison healing from one of the Ascendancy nodes. I think it was this one. Yeah, gives you extra life per poison affecting enemies you kill, which poison stacks, you know how it is. But it also makes it so all of his dude bros poison as well and deal pretty significant damage. So he's got Dawn Blow, Poison, Lesser Poison, Melee Fizz, Fortify, Multi-Strike, Melee Splash. Is that 7? And 2, something like that. You can probably cut one of these. Multi-Strike feels really weird nowadays, so I'd probably just go for the Melee Splash and call it a day. Or you could use Ancestral Call. I always like using Ancestral Call. And this sort of setup here, I don't think there's anything important chess piece-wise, no. Then Raise Spectre, like I said before, Enemy Guardian, you can use whatever you want, pretty much. Vitality just gives you nice life regen. This actually makes you invulnerable, almost, while leveling, if you didn't know that. Just put a Vitality on and you'll never die. Spirit Offering and Desecrate, this will allow you to pop this whenever you want, put down Desecrate, consume the corpse with the Offering for bonus damage and, well, bonus resistance in this case, but gain 29% of their physical damage as extra chaos damage when we're doing poison stuff with the Dawn Blow. That's really useful. And Convocation is how you saw him pulling the minions to him all the time. That will work for the Herald of Purity fellows and for the Dominating Blow Sentinels. So that sort of thing's really nice, because certain builds you can't, like, convoke. Like Skeletons, you can't convoke. I don't think you can convoke zombies. I don't remember. I think you can. But certain ones are just very niche for what works, and being able to just pull all your minions to you is really nice when you come across a rare. You know, you leap into Shit Creek, you just convoke it, and everything explodes around you and dies. It's really nice. Despair in here. This is going to be on his ring, on his Profane Proxy. He's using he's using Skitterbots here in a second ring, in an unset ring. But this is going to make it so that his Skitterbots will actually apply Despair to everything around him, which is very nice in regards to just bonuses, because when you have a bunch of minions, you can't be hitting everything, really, right? Your minions are going to run off and go and whack shit, so as a result, you can't realistically curse everything they're going to hit. So this is a pretty good way to go about getting your curse on everything without blaspheming it or doing anything stupid like that. And then Skitterbots in the other ring. This is a +3 socketed gems unset. Like I said, it's Trade League builds. Spell Totem's Wither. This is going to proc multiple withers on a boss. It can stack up to 15 times, making them take increased chaos damage. So that's for your single target stuff. Precision is going to give you accuracy rating and give your dudes accuracy rating as well. And crit strike as well. And then Herald of Purity gives bonus fellas and lesser poison and poison on those guys to make them do chaos damage and get boosted by the Spirit Offering and that sort of stuff. And then Carrion Golem is going to give you more damage to your other minions. So yeah. Alright, skill tree stuff. I kind of did this backwards, but still. But get life and then pretty much minion damage everywhere. Wicked Ward is going to give you some ES stuff. So your ES is like regenerating. Or can't be interrupted. I don't know why he goes for this when your energy shield is so abysmally low, but one of the things I forgot to ask him, I guess. But it's a one-pointer. Might as well. Grabs the minion stuff here, grabs the minion stuff here. More +1 number of golems here is really good when you have the Carrion Golem for grants additional physical damage for non-golem minions. That gives bonus fizz damage to your heralds, to your dawn blows, that sort of stuff. And he basically doubles that by getting 2 golems out of this setup. And then he has Ghastly Eyes pretty much everywhere. This is going to be minions deal increased damage with any combination of max life, minions deal bonus damage, increased attack speed, minions have increased cast speed, minions deal additional fizz. Any combination of that is going to work. Obviously, creating a gem like this is, I believe, statistically impossible because you can only have 4. But yeah, so any combo of that will work out for you. Life, minion stuff, life. This is going to give you maximum mana as ES and regenerate mana as well. Minion stuff. I was reading through the extra bit if any of that was important. Life, jewel slot. I'm not going to mouse over that again because it takes up half my screen. But minion stuff. Life, aura stuff, minion stuff. This makes the minion damage stuff also affect you. Because like I said, he wanted to be in the fray, right? So that actually works out pretty well. Grabbing the spiritual aid node, despite he traveled all the way over here for this one node, more than likely. So this basically gives him a shit ton of damage when he's doing his Dawn Blow stuff and playing in the fray, which is going to be an interesting playstyle. Accuracy, stats, life, another jewel, minion damage, jewel, life, and more life stuff here. Another jewel there. And then into itemization. Character is relatively simple. He has a weapon with minion damage and minion attack speed and cast speed. You can get the minion damage from an essence is probably what he did. That's my assumption anyways. If you saw my Herald of Agony Juggernaut starter, that was what I recommended doing there as well, is just get minion damage on this sort of setup. You can run 2 of these if you want, I think, if you want even more minion damage, but you'd have to get rid of the shield charge and go for like Leap Slam. Since he's using claws, you could use Whirling Blades with Fortify, maybe. But you get tankier with having a shield, obviously. So, tanky shield with good armor values and life. And then he has an enchanted helmet with +3 socketed minion gems. Dawn Blow can summon an additional 3 sentinels. That's going to cost you a bit, depending on how played the build is. Any helmet enchant does. Chest piece with +1 socketed strength gems. Embalmers for added chaos damage and increased poison duration. I believe those will affect the minions. I'm not entirely sure. If not, it does affect you. Do watch what you put in the socket, or in the sockets, because if you put in auras that can be affected by vile toxins, you'll up their mana cost. So be wary of that. I don't think it's an issue here, but it might be, because I've done that before. Move speed boots, a anointment for lion spirits, wherever that is on the tree. And then the skitterbots, like I said, and an abyssal belt with one of the many sockets. And then onslaught flask and removal flasks. And that is pretty much the character. The rest of the stuff over here in the Ascendancy was just so that he could be doing stuff at the same time and be useful. So none of this stuff apparently affects the minions. I did ask him about that. This is stuff for him to be able to do shit with poisons and like be in the fray and not die. But if you want to go a full minion character, just go Necro, I think. But otherwise, he gets life from enemies he kills with Noxus Strike here, with poison stuff and damage with poisons and that sort of stuff. Reduced damage taken from damage over time. Poisons you inflict with crits deal more damage. And he's got a low crit chance, but you know, every now and then when you're stacking a bunch on a boss, it will add up. And then crits have culling strikes, so you get extra culling on bosses to make life easier. And opportunistic, so you can't have your crit damage reflected back to you, which is going to be very nice for just smacking a Fizz Reflect map and killing yourself, because I've done that many a time. But yeah, that is going to be his. I don't know how to really call it. I mean, obviously you called it Cobra Commander, but this sort of like in the fray Reaver style. If you're looking forward to playing that in Path of Exile 2. I'd recommend taking a look at this build and seeing if it works for you, because it's kind of that sort of style, just not in PoE 2 just yet. But yeah, so that is going to be that character. And to round us off, we have an Impale Earthquake Occultist. This is one of his specialties, right, is taking something that shouldn't be played, you know, some way, and then playing it some very stupid way. This is the exact sort of point of that, is Impale Earthquake Occultist. You just kind of go, what? Because getting the stats for that must have been a real pain in the ass, but still. So I'll give you a little bit of gameplay of this character. I've played Earthquake characters before. You can play it one-handed or two-handed. Running one-handed, I've found, gives you a lot less damage, but a lot more survivability. But because of the Impale stuff, he's kind of countered it out. I believe this is a tier 13, 15, something around there. And he's just slamming and going to the next pack. The only issue that I commented on in this was that he's running a Blasphemy aura. So I'll cover that when I get to the build. But the thing about doing Earthquake stuff is if you Blasphemy your aura, what'll happen is when you leap away from the enemies, then the curse isn't going to stay on them. And that was an issue that I found when I was playing my Bleed Earthquake character, because I was scaling the aftershock, like the explosion, right? The explosion just went off there. This build, it works either way. You can scale the aftershock or the initial hit or whatever have you. But I found that when I would leap away, they wouldn't be cursed anymore. So the aftershock could go off, and I would lose the bonus damage that I was trying to scale for. So in that case, you could go Vuln on hit gloves if you wanted to for bonus damage. You could run Blasphemy and Vuln on hit at the exact same time, although that would cancel each other out because they're two separate levels of curse. So I didn't think about that until now, but you could do that if you wanted to. But yeah, no problem with the boss whatsoever. And you saw the mapping; it was pretty simple. Not the fastest of characters, but if you're playing meme or interesting characters, you're gonna sacrifice clear speed. And one thing I recommend in regards to playing PoE is don't give a shit about clear speed. Right? It's a single player game. What matters is if you have fun with the build you're playing. You don't have to be Mach 5 fast at all times, right? If you want to play slower characters and you enjoy that playstyle, play slower characters. If you're playing SSF, no one should be telling you how to play Path of Exile. That's the thing that always annoyed me when doing, like, you know, content for other people or that sort of stuff. Yes, my situation is unique, but it did used to kind of irk me, people saying, oh, this is, you know, I would say build is slow. People would be like, why isn't build fast? You can't win for losing sometimes. Anyways, let's take a look at the skill tree, shall we? Let me get this off my screen so I can actually see what's going on. This character could just be played as Juggernaut or Earth Berserker or anything like that, or even Slayer, because we go down to all of the starting spots if you do want any of those options. The reason he goes for Occultist is 1, hipster value, and 2, double curses, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I think he only uses 1. Does he only use 1 curse, even though he has double curses? That such a feels bad, man. I gotta tell him that. Yeah, he's actually losing damage. Because you can go, oh, what is it, the bleed one, can't you? Yeah, he's actually missing out on a curse. Whoops. Well, okay, I'll make sure to tell him that. But you get the curse explosions, because everything around you will basically give you a very small hemo explosion for 25, or for a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage, which is surprisingly very, very good in higher tier maps if you're able to explode something, and then everything else will explode around it. So this is actually a very good and interesting concept in regards to just Profane Bloom. It's all you really need to make this viable in certain scenarios, but you could just go Slayer or Gladiator, whichever one has the explosion, you know what I mean? He gets bonus AoE from Forbidden Power, which is going to give us AoE and spell damage and maximum power charges, and give you charges after spending 200 mana, but that's going to take forever with how much mana melee skills don't take. And then Malediction, you can apply an additional curse, which I'll update him on. When you kill an enemy, for each enemy, each curse on that enemy gain 8% of non-chaos damage with extra chaos damage. It's bonus damage. Increase effect of your curses is very nice. That sort of stuff. And then Vile Bastion is going to give a little bit of regeneration. I actually questioned him on this. I don't think it's that great of a choice when you could just go Void Beacon to remove life regen rate and reduce their chaos res. So when the Profane Bloom goes off, they take bonus damage from that. But he said that the extra ES was kind of nice. And when you watch the video back, or you watch the gameplay back, you'll notice if he takes like small hits from anything, he just has this sort of very small Molten Shield buffer, basically, from the Energy Shield. I still don't think it's that great. I originally thought it was the stun removal was why he was taking it, but it really wasn't. But I think Void Beacon would be the better option there. Or you could just take out Malediction, because, you know, he's not fucking, what is it? They do take 10% increased damage, but you could drop Malediction and go, like, Void Beacon and mess around with some of these options, see what you can get. Can't be frozen, you know. Who knows? But, yeah, let's take a look at the skill tree. So we start out in the Witch side, and we pop out the Intelligence side, grab the life here. Then we get any combination of crit chance, damage, life, and damage with maces. And we come down getting as little nodes as possible to get us to the good stuff, which we're going to get Thrill Seeker. This is the one node that basically fixes mana problems. We talked about this earlier. And then we get Life with Life on Kill from Hired Killer. This is insanely good. If you've never played with Life on Kill, you're doing yourself a disservice because it basically makes you immortal when doing maps or delves or anything like that. You cannot die if you have even like 1 or 2% Life on Kill. Elder Chess Pieces used to give you 5% Life on Kill. And when you rolled that, it fixed the build. Full stop. You never died, ever. So get that. And then we get reduced skill effect duration. This is so that your Earthquake goes off quicker. Very niche things for EQ stuff. Max life, Impale stuff, the Jewel, Impale stuff. War Cries kind of exert travel skills. This is so your War Cries, because he's using slams, obviously, so using slam bonuses. This makes it so that your leap slam will not take up an exert, otherwise it will, so you need this 1 pointer. Accuracy, he doesn't take Resolute Technique because he goes for crit chance stuff, so we get really close to it though. Grab the accuracy here, grab life, grab War Cry bonuses, melee damage stuff. This is your stun immunity, and you get recover 10% life when you use a War Cry, which is a mini Berserker node. Imagine being all that you're worth as an Ascendancy on one node. Feels bad, man. Melee crit, life. He anoints Red Storm for bleed damage and 30% increased physical damage. I think that's just the best node he could get for physical damage, more than likely, because the bleed stuff doesn't really scale or anything like that. Then life, fortify, maim, and crit. Bit of extra damage while leeching, and leeches life. And then War Cries exert 1 additional attack. And that is pretty much the skill tree, so let's pop into the skills. And we are running a Blasphemy Vol. Like I said, I talked about using the, the on-hit gloves as a recommendation. I would still probably recommend that, although it's going to be very difficult to get. A Dread Banner, actually he doesn't use Hemos in this. Why does he get the bleed stuff and doesn't use Hemos? Oh well. So this is the thing when you pick up other people's builds, is you can actually start to like pick out pieces of it and question it, and that's why I do Build Repair Shop, which you can find on Patreon if you are in need of build help. But yeah, it's always interesting when you pick up someone else's build and go, why this? You know, like why are you doing X, Y, Z? But yeah, it's always nice to help people out in certain scenarios like that. But Blasphemy Vol, Dread Banner is going to give you Impale stuff, and Precision is going to give you accuracy rating and increased crit, which is going to be very, very nice for being able to hit your fucking target. Otherwise it gets kind of awkward. Earthquake, Impale, Melee Fizz, Fortify, Pulverize, Shockwave. I don't know about Shockwave, it's not really that great from my experience, but you could switch Shockwave for other stuff, just like other flat damage stuff. You could do Multi-Strike if you want, because the attack speed seemed kind of slow, although Multi-Strike's weird now with the attack canceling patch. I love how we got a melee update that actually made melee feel worse. I'm not here to complain, but still. Vol Earthquake, I just put this in general, like don't just run a normal Earthquake, just run a Vol one. And then the explosions will impale and send. I wonder if the explosions just send off shockwaves. That could be a build. But yeah, that's the sort of setup here. Pulverize for AoE. You can run Ink AoE here and over the shockwave, and it just gets stupid, like stupid amounts of AoE. Then here we have Vol Warchief with Maim. Maim is going to link to Flesh and Stone. I'm not too sure if this actually like maims everything. I've never really figured out this setup, but Path of Building says it works, so fuck it, who knows. And then Vol Warchief is going to give you more melee damage while the totem's active. You don't really care about the attack speed from the Ancestral Protector. You want flat damage because we're going for 1 slam next pack. So Warchief is going to be better for that if you're going to just drop this while doing like farming stuff. And so Vol Warchief will actually hop with you, will like follow you if you leap slam off the screen. So I showed that in some of my other Warchief builds, but that's a very niche thing as well. But on bosses, you're just going to get more flat melee damage and kill them that much quicker. Leap slam, faster attacks. This is just mobility stuff because we're using vulnerability, so you don't need anything else. You could put fortify here. He uses Fortify in his main skill, but you could put a Fortify here too if you wanted to. Blood and Sand for probably, I didn't see what stance he was in. He's in Blood stance, so Blood and Sand for flat damage here, for more area damage. You can switch this to Sand and like micro it if you want. No one does that, but you can if you want to be that guy. To get bonus AoE out of it. And then we have a 4-link Cries with Second Wind. I never thought about doing this, but this is actually kind of cool. This allows you to get different interactions depending on what you want. And these all, I think they have separate cooldowns, don't they? I don't remember entirely. I think the War Cries have separate CDs, but because of Second Wind, the cooldown actually doesn't fucking matter. That's really cool, actually. I kind of want to try this interaction now, because this will give you 2 charges of the War Cries, which means if you use a Seismic Cry for damage, and oh shit, I need to heal, then you can just press your Enduring Cry, and since you've got the extra charge stacked up on it, if it pulls from one pool of charges, then you can just immediately Enduring Cry again. If it's 2 charges for each War Cry, then you have 6 War Cries at your disposal at any point for whatever use you need. This is actually a pretty good setup. Enduring Cry is going to give you life and endurance charges. Seismic Slam is going to buff your slams, or Seismic Cry, sorry, Diablo on the brain, I guess. Seismic Cry is going to buff your slams and make your damage even better, and your AoE even better. And then Intimidating Cry is going to give you what is it? Exiled attacks deal double damage. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know if you can stack these. You might be able to, because the one that I ran was like you got to use 1 at a time. Yeah, they share their cooldown, but the War Cries are instant. So you can probably stack these, but they do have an animation, so you need to be careful about that. But this might speed up the animation with some of the stuff you took in the tree. So it could like animation cancel itself, maybe. Who knows? So you can probably press both of those for 1 big slam if you want, or 2 big slams because you have a second wind. And then you have Cast When, Immortal Call, Stone Golem. This is the setup that I gave him, that I used to use all the time. He actually took this for most of my builds, I think. But this is going to cast Immortal Call when you get low, or when you take a certain amount of damage, or resummon your Stone Golem pretty much infinitely, which will give you bonus life regen all the time. And that is going to be the character. Itemization is pretty simple. High physical damage base, as good as you can get. Crit chance, crit multi. Shield with global fizz damage. It's a Redeemer shield. The global fizz damage is the main reason. Vulnerability curse effect. You could get earthquake damage as well, or reduced earthquake duration. Is that still in the game? I think. I don't know. Helmet has the Essence mod of nearby enemies take increased physical damage. Very difficult to get in solo, so found from my experience. Lore Weave for just flat physical and maximum resistances. Lore Weaves are just good, as well as the crit bonus as well. Spiked Gloves, this is why he wasn't running Vuln, or like the extra curse or anything like that, or Vuln gloves. But I think you would just be better off to use Hemos here with, what is it? Vuln Hemos, or, what's the fucking other curse? There's a bleed one. I don't remember what it is. You could run the other curse through on-hit Hemos, and you would get a bleed explosion. You'd get a second curse that he's not using, which I'll tell him about. And then, yeah, you could get even more damage out of that. And then boots, we got attack speed, cast speed, enchant with move speed. Red Storm, we talked about this. Global Fizz, added Fizz, life, diamonds for crit chance. You could probably use steals too. Stygian Vise with fizz damage, and then the Jewel in the Abyssal that I talked about before, of any combination of crit damage, crit stuff, life, and mace stuff. And then Lion's Roar and Immunity Flasks. That is going to be the 3 characters for you. I went a little bit over time, I guess, but that's what happens when I give you a shit ton of information at once. But yeah, that is going to be his League Starters. You can find him in my Discord, which is going to be in the link in the description if you have any other questions for him. That is going to be all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want me to showcase your League Starters, send them to me via email, I guess. Either email me at wolfian1337@gmail.com, or you can just send them to me on Discord. It's also an option. If you want something like this, send me the build, the paste bin, and a little bit of gameplay if you can, because people want gameplay for whatever reason. So, and a little small explanation of what the build actually does. And when time comes around for the next League Starters, I may feature yours, potentially. Or just join the Discord and wait till the next one rolls around and send me yours as well. But yeah, it's going to be all from me. And as always, take care, gentlemen. I shall see you in the next one. This is probably going to be one of my last videos leading up to the League start, so I hope you guys have a good Echoes of the Atlas, or a good Ritual League, and may the drops be with you. Take care, gentlemen.